Okay, now I'd like to talk about the elements of staging and the actions of the stage crew at the Boston unbombing show. I would say that the evidence of fake moulage wounds and impossibly non-bleeding wounds and impossibly unwounded skin under allegedly shrapnel-shredded clothing are what we could call direct evidence. And as such things are evidence of a fake staged event on the whole, it logically follows that there would be evidence of a crew being involved in staging such an event, which is what we could call essential circumstantial evidence. Given the large amount of photographic and video footage, it should be obvious enough to spot this when we look for it. We shouldn't assume that the crew would have any superhuman ability to hide what they are up to, but rather that they would be naturally incapable of hiding what they are doing from anyone paying very close attention and having an ample amount of data to scrutinize. We have much more than an ample amount of data, and we are paying very close attention. I think it would be good to preface our stage crew investigation by mentioning a brave film producer named Nathan Folks, who is the man standing in the middle of this picture wearing a tie. While Folks was watching the news reports on the day of the Boston unbombing, he noticed a number of glaring discrepancies which were to him, having an insider's perspective of a film industry professional, telltale signs of a staged event. You might notice Cowboy Carlos standing on the left in this picture. Carlos was featured in a 2012 documentary movie produced by Folks called The Prosecution of an American President. Of course, Folks was surprised to see Carlos featured in the Boston unbombing. After watching the news coverage of the unbombing, and after several subsequent phone conversations with Carlos' wife Melita, Folks became certain that Carlos had been recruited, or one might say exploited, by the creators of this event. In various interviews about the Boston unbombing, Folks has mentioned spotting common elements of hyper-realistic filmmaking and also spotting people performing the tasks of scene directors and crew coordinators and makeup artists and stagehands, which is not to say that these were professional movie industry people, but to say that these were people performing these roles, as is done in hyper-realistic emergency response drills. Folks has also pointed out that most of the live mainstream news coverage of the Boston unbombing was not done with the HD technology which was commonplace by 2013, but rather used an older low-definition technology from circa 2002 and earlier, which is grainier and blurrier and therefore much safer for the perpetrators of a mass deception. Let's hear a snippet of Folks talking with talk show host Richie Allen.
It wasn't until the Boston bombing, marathon bombing for me, did I really see the truth, because of the people I knew that were involved and things that I could actually prove myself and sit there and show, look, this person used to work with me on this production. I know exactly how they did this. I mean, it took all of that to finally make me aware, having hard evidence and proof because of my experience, that then I could actually come out and say what really happened.
Which I've said a few times, it must have been an extraordinarily difficult decision for you to make with your background and with your career.
Good on you, Nathan. Before continuing, I just want to doubly clarify that the use of words like scene directors and scene coordinators and stagehands isn't meant to imply that there were movie industry people brought in to carry out these roles at the unbombing. Generally, the people filling out these roles in large emergency response drills come from a variety of federal and state and local agencies and departments related to the arena of emergency response, and such was the case with the unbombing, by and large. In the official Department of Homeland Security guidelines for large emergency response drills, these roles are described by words like controllers, evaluators, players, actors, facilitators, and simulators. We see some of these roles described in the article featured in this slide, which is a page from the Controller and Evaluator Handbook for a large medical disaster drill in Alameda County, California, which followed the guidelines of the Department of Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program. And here's the cover of a guidelines manual from the Homeland Security and Evaluation Program, which spells sheep. I mean HASEEP. In these guidelines we read about the various roles. The head directors or managers of a large emergency drill or exercise are called exercise controllers. Their job is to keep things running according to the master plan, and they get a handbook to help them. And here's some more details from these Department of Homeland Security guidelines. At the top we see a description of the victim actors, aka crisis actor victims. We also see a description of moulage, which includes fake blood and fake bones as well as fake wounds. I should mention that prefabricated silicone moulage wounds don't require a long setup time. There were a few of those at the on-bombing, but mostly there was just fake blood spattered about and some clothing sheared as if by scissors or a razor. We also see a description of special effects, including pyrotechnics and controlled explosives. So, you get the point. Alright, let's begin our own investigation of the stage crew and their various tasks and duties in attempting to pull off this hoax. We'll start by playing a clip we saw earlier of the scene director giving Carlos some instructions. Again, we see the man in the yellow jacket handing Carlos a large flag. There he is. As we saw before, Dr. Panther steps out to talk to a cop and the man in the yellow jacket bumps him back. Played again, slow motion. The man in the yellow jacket bumps him back with 4 waves of his hand, discreetly, but not at all discreetly enough. This is a huge discrepancy. And talking to Carlos. There's something else that you may have missed in that last video clip. Keep your eye on the middle where the star is. You'll see the woman in the yellow shirt point at the camera that is filming to alert the crew to a breach, and then several people will step in the way to block the camera's view. They didn't even want mainstream media cameras too close to the scene or capturing too much of the action. There's your point. And there you have it. And there are other instances of camera pointing and blocking. Keep your eye where the blue arrow is pointing to the guy in the white shirt. A woman will walk up and he will point to the camera that is filming, and they will both look at the camera and then step out to block the camera's view. Here we go. There's the point. I'll play that again, slow motion. Oh, shit. Now he steps out to block, picks his crotch, disgusting slob. And that's it for that clip. Now here's a video showing several camera blockers and scene coordinators in action. The fat woman in the brown shirt is a crisis actor who mainly works as a scene blocker. You'll see that she walks to the right into a storefront and a scene coordinator chases her and literally pushes her back out onto the scene. There she goes into the storefront, and here comes the scene coordinator chasing her in and pushing her back out onto the scene. Okay. I'm going to play it again to show some more blockers that hang around throughout the event. This red-headed woman in the blue shirt, we'll call her Ginger, is a blocker. We have a few more here. We have Beckham in the crazy outfit here, and Bird in the light green shirt. The crew is ever vigilant to shield the scene from unwanted eyewitnesses and unwanted cameras. Now here's the person who took that video footage we just watched being shouted off the scene. This photo from Ha Ha Tango shows us a minute later, after the person who was taking that last video was shouted away. Our scene blockers, who I circled and pointed to with red arrows, are still on the scene. They stay on the scene throughout the event. No one ever tells them to leave. There's also a new unwanted camera, the woman in the orange headscarf, and she will be shouted out. The other two people holding cameras, the guy in the white sweatshirt in front of her and the guy in the blue and black jacket to the right, will not be shouted away because they are part of the crew. The video clip we're about to see begins within a second or two of that previous Ha Ha Tango photo. I circled the window from where Ha Ha Tango is taking pictures. Now we'll see the crew attempting to block the scene and then shouting away the unwanted camera holder who is taking this video. The guy in the white shirt just asked, "Ginger, get them out." Play it again. He says, "You don't want to be here, leave." The camera holder in the blue and black is conversing with the scene blockers. Go. Kicking them out.
We gotta find John. Come on.
The scene of photo op, leave. Okay. The seeming bystanders who are actually crew members never leave the scene. There's really too many of them to point out in any one photo, but here's Beckham, and tracking him through the event is like playing Where's Waldo? Where's Beckham? Psst, it's all fake. Okay, here's some more crew members who play the role of bystanders. The guy in the light gray sweatshirt and the guy in the green jacket and dark baseball cap arrive several minutes in and start playing their parts. I call them frickin' frack. They are scripted as bystanders and also as heroic helpers. The guy at the left in a red shirt wearing glasses is a scene coordinator or scene director, and he has a managing role over the entire stage. Next we see Frick and Frack have moved into the middle of the scene while the director is giving orders. Here he is giving a stay out signal to somebody. The next we see Frick and Frack have been moved to the side while the scene coordinator in the red shirt walks down to check the perimeter. The next we see of Frick and Frack, they are kneeling over a crisis actress victim, quite oddly enough, considering that there is a Boston EMS paramedic standing right there ignoring her. Not to mention the many other doctors and other medical staff on the scene at this point. We also see that the scene coordinator in the red shirt is speaking with a cop. Here's a view from the other side of the stage showing Frick and Frack over the same crisis actress. Again, the Boston EMS paramedic is standing aside, because Frick and Frack got this covered. The bottom right photo shows this crisis actress position on the stage. And at the bottom left is one of the more well-known photos of this event, showing this same crisis actress sitting up on the sidewalk soon after the pyrotechnic display. Several minutes later, Frick is in the upper left corner coming out of a storefront. He's been going all over the place. I'm just giving the highlights here. The director in the red shirt is in the lower right corner. Beckham is in the upper middle doing what he does best. The scene coordinator in the red shirt spends most of his time going from crisis actor victim to crisis actor victim, checking over the whole stage. Here he is over one victim, and here he is over another victim, butting in front of a Boston EMS paramedic. Maybe you can spot Beckham and Frick and Frack in the crowd. There were actually many regular people, meaning non-medical and non-police, who just walked onto the scene well after the pyrotechnic display. There were all kinds of people who were allowed onto the scene, but that all kinds of people was actually limited to people who were crew members and insiders to the event. Anyone else was excluded.